Hi there, Guy from Midwinter Minis here. Since the recent announcement of contrast paints, many people in the Midwinter Minis community have messaged me asking if I'll be using them. In this video, I'm going to share a few of my thoughts on the new contrast paint range from Citadel and explain why, after carefully considering it, I don't think I'll be using them, at least for the painting tutorials on this channel. Now, before you smash that dislike button for daring to diss Games Workshop's brand new miracle paints, hear me out. After weighing up the pros and cons, I'm basing this decision on 7 main points. I hate excessive intros, so let's just get started with number 1, and it's a big, obvious one. You don't really need contrast tutorials. Citadel Contrast paints have been designed to be a beginner-friendly, one-coat solution for miniature painting. Tinting the surface, darkening recesses, and appearing lighter along edges, you simply need to choose your colour scheme, paint one thick coat, and you're done. In my opinion, there's not a huge scope for creating very interesting tutorials using contrast paints once the initial hype has died down. As anyone who has been following along with my recent speed painting tutorials will know, the techniques I try to teach you on Midwinter Minis aren't much more difficult than using Citadel Contrast paint, and in my opinion give you a better looking finished model with paints that you already own. At the same time, you'll be learning and putting into practice lots of useful techniques like dry brushing, shading, glazing and highlighting, which contrast oversimplifies. My aim is to give you the confidence to paint your models and to make you a better painter. My worry is that contrast might make your skills stagnate rather than improve. My second point is that I don't want to alienate my audience. Beyond making a few videos to show how they paint and react, if I create model painting tutorials using contrast, I'm basically forcing my viewers to go out and buy a whole new range of paints and primers if they want to paint along. And while some of my tutorials require specific paints to achieve certain effects, I keep my colour choices very simple and brand free, opting for simple colour names like red, green, blue and tan, and mixing these basic paints to create different tones, so people can achieve similar results no matter what brand they prefer. And this also leads me on to point 3, which might sound a bit selfish, but I don't want to buy a whole new range of paints. I've been in the hobby for a long time and I have a pretty good selection of paints I like. I know how they look and how well they mix and thin and feel to paint. Beyond simply one-coating the rank and file of your army, I'm sure contrast paints have some pretty cool advanced uses, maybe grungy weathering effects for example. However, I'm certainly not going to rush out and buy a whole new set of paints, along with the recommended primers, which will make me change the way I paint. My channel focuses on techniques rather than materials after all. Now my fourth reason is maybe a bit more of a divisive opinion, but in many instances, I don't think contrast paint actually looks that great. Even from the first few examples we've seen so far from Warhammer Fest and YouTubers who got early access, I'm not really convinced of their quality, or at least in the consistency of that quality. Some of the colours are obviously great, while others look pretty strange. They seem to work very well on natural shapes like bodies and highly textured miniatures, but vehicles and models with big armour panels tend to look quite patchy. Again, I'm sure many of these paints will have their uses, but for me they aren't quite the miracle solution that Games Workshop's admittedly hilarious promo material purport them to be. Now point number 5 in the guy's a big whiny man-child list is a simple one. Other people will be making contrast videos. You'll get your contrast fix. Warhammer TV are gearing up to create even more battle-ready tutorials, and a whole host of other YouTubers are readying themselves to show you what contrast paint can do, but I won't be one of them though. And that's okay. Point 6. Well, Citadel Contrast paints come in Citadel paint pots. Now I've already mentioned this in passing in a few videos, but it needs to be said again. Citadel paint pots are defective. The lids don't form an airtight seal, so the paint dries out sooner than you expect. The little support flaps on the lid don't work. They often hold the lid in place or get stuck and stop the lid from closing properly, or just throw it closed as soon as you open it. The paint reservoir in the lid is badly designed, and the paint often trickles down the back of the bottleneck and dries, which lets air leak in while you store your paints, and again dries them out prematurely. Aside from their technical and shade ranges, I'm actively avoiding Citadel's standard acrylic paints, and am migrating to other brands like Vallejo, Coat d'Arms and P3. You'll often hear anecdotal tales of people using 2-decade-old Citadel paints from the glorious white lid days, and here's another one. Decade-old bolt gun metal, good as new. Lead belcher, oh dear. My final point is that, like many products in the hobby, you can actually make your own. With a simple mix of acrylic medium, water, flow improver, and whatever blend of ink or liquid pigment you want, you can create paints which create a very similar final effect. I created an earthy warm tone wash which I've used in many of my painting tutorial videos, and I even show you how to make it for yourself in the video that just popped up. Other YouTubers have also made videos showing you how you can add surfactants to the model paint you already own to create paints that act in a similar way to contrast. Using these techniques, you can make your own one-coat wonders in the colours you'll use most. Make up a batch of yellowy green for orc skin or thin grey-blue wash for creating definition on white armour. Making it yourself also lets you create the amount that you need, so you don't need to have half pots sitting around for years. We all know how that particular story ends, huh? To prove the point, while you've been listening to me rant about contrast paints, I painted this Poxwalker using standard acrylics and my DIY dipwash, pretty much in real time. A whole model painted in about 7 minutes, and I didn't have to buy a whole new range of paint to do it. Anyway, that's enough of what I think. I'm interested in what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas, and please leave a comment. I try to reply to them all, and like this video if it's given you food for thought. If you're new to the channel and like the idea of following along with my simple effective painting techniques, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on my future Kill Team Rogue Trader, Chaos Space Marine, Necromunda, and Space Hulk videos. A quick shout out to the awesome Stefan and Sven for donating to the channel since our last video, and that's it for this one. Bye for now.